Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Marvel's Strike Force. In today's video, we are going to be continuing the Should You Core series here, getting started with Peggy Carter and whether or not that you should be investing or unlocking this character early for the Liberty team, which is going to be an Alliance war team. Some few things, and obviously that, I don't put a lot of value on war as far as where I'm going to be spending my cores, but nonetheless, we're going to be going over the character kits and in more detail, the character stats, all that stuff to finally come to the conclusion on whether or not you should core for Peggy Carter. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. Now, before we dive into the kit, I do want to take a look at Peggy Carter's stats. Sometimes characters change, especially since we've had the 2.0 era stats. Sometimes there's a little bit of change with, the progressively getting a little bit stronger. So I do want to take a look at that. P.S. Yes, they did, just to finalize this, I don't know if I said it in a video, but yes, they did quote unquote nerf Cap Sam. I think the problem is that he maintained a 40% health passive, which was not supposed to be there after they did the stat increases. And so that was escalating with the stat increases and then the extra 40% on top. So yes, they did shave that off. Their reasoning and the way that they described it in their text was bad because that's not what happened, but it's because of the scaling and the multiplication of the stats after they changed it. But yes, he does have less stats, unfortunately, and he no longer has more health than Odin. I just wanted to kind of point that out there. So this is health here. Where is Peggy? I don't see her in the top. No, she's there. Peggy's in the top 11 there. So she's around just a little bit more hit points than Kahori, which is kind of interesting there on the health side of things. She is a controller type, so she's not a tank, so to speak. Is she in the top 10 for damage? No, she's not. I didn't really expect her to be. Where is Peggy Carter? She is 35 in damage. Okay, so it's not as high. She's kind of around the same spots as Man-Thing, the other Falcon, new Falcon, Miss Marvel Classic, Cap Sam. So it looks like there's a pretty similar damage stat there between some of these characters. As far as armor goes, where's Peggy Carter? She's also in the 30s, alongside characters like alongside characters like Doctor Strange, Shadow King, Moondragon, Polaris. So this is interesting. They all have like similar numbers here. Like these characters here, like all the way from like Blade all the way down to Doctor Strange here, all have the same numbers on the armor stat. I wonder if the way that they're scaling these new stats, if they have like a particular benchmark in mind, and then everyone just, the formula gets you to that number. That just seems to be what's happening right now in the 2.0 era. As far as her focus goes, she is 20 in focus alongside characters like also the Shadow King. Hey, surprise, surprise. And actually, if you look at the next stat for resistance, Shadow King shares almost identical stats here with armor, focus, and resistance. So that is interesting, I guess, from the perspective that Peggy Carter is not a legendary character. But yeah, a lot of the same characters are sharing the same stats, which is really weird here. On the focus side of things, you have all the way from Moon Knight at the bottom here at 23, all the way to Scientists, actually even further, goes all the way up to Ironheart OG up to 14 here. So like 10 people with the same focus stat. So it must be something that they're doing when they're kind of realigning the character stats or in general, this 2.0 era. And I don't know if we really need to look at the resistance again, but she's 25 and there's a lot of other people. There's a few people with the same amount of stats there too, give or take a little bit. So that's Peggy Carter. I mean, she's not that good, I guess. Well, I mean, like she's in the top 30, I suppose, but she's nothing like to write home about. She does have I guess her health is like in the 10. So that's good. Health is top 10, but the rest of them is like kind of in the top 30. So it's nothing super crazy. As far as her speed goes, she's 125, so she's kind of it's average for new characters, I suppose, or even for older characters. She's 54, same speed stat as Shadow King and Omega Sentinel, so it's okay. It's nothing crazy though, just kind of pretty average, I would say nowadays. So her stats are nothing to write home about, but let's take a look at her her kit, of course. So she is a hero global skill controller character with Liberty. Now, skill is interesting because we obviously need more characters to put our skill gear on. There has not been a lot lately, although I do expect, and if you watch my video from recently, that I do expect that the Vigilante team is also going to be a skill associated team too, so do keep that in mind or keep that with a grain of salt, that we could be getting a lot more skill characters coming down the pipeline. We just haven't had a whole lot lately. Her basic taking aim, attack primary target for 300, plus apply slow and copy and clear 3 positive effects, excluding taunt. So that's not bad, and that's probably a pretty decent safety attack if it still does the slow and the 3 random positive effects. So it could be a possibly good striker action there. Surefire Bolt, clear immunity from primary and adjacent targets. I do like that they do this stuff first and not after, so that you can get rid of this before it does anything. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 350, plus apply slow for 2 turns. Stun to the primary target. Start trauma in war for 2 turns to the primary target. This attack is unavoidable. Good. I like unavoidable attacks. We seem to be getting it more and more. If this attack has 3 or more Liberty allies, this cannot be blocked, so it's pretty much guaranteed to stun and trauma the primary target, which is fine. Pretty decently low cooldown as well, and then slow to adjacent targets. Crossfire, clear all barrier from all enemies. We're getting a lot of this, because if you guys saw my video on Starjammers, they got like barrier stuff on like every single character. So we're seeing a lot of clear barrier mechanics, because a lot of like heavier war and Crucible teams, I think, kind of use barrier mechanics is quite common these days. Attack all enemies for 400% damage and apply slow for 2 turns, so AoE slow for 2 turns, and then +1 vulnerable up to a max of 5. That's neat, because there's not everyone has like vulnerable skills. This is also available outside of war too. Apply ability block only to the primary target though, so you got to make sure, even though it's an AoE attack, make sure that the ability block is going on the person that you want it to be on the primary target. In war, if you have 3 or more Liberty allies, apply trauma for 2 turns to all enemies, so AoE trauma. But you do need 4 herself and 3 more, so 4 characters. I don't know, maybe there's some theory crafting potential there, I guess, if that's what they're saying. I don't know if there's any characters with text about 4 or more, though I don't remember. The Dryad passive at the end of any Liberty ally turn if this character does not have 2 or more exhausts. So this is also in Cap Sam's kit. And so I guess this is something against putting them on defense. I don't know which is going to be better. I haven't paid attention to the gameplay. If there's any like gameplay from the envoys in the war test server, I don't know. I haven't been watching that, so I don't know how good they are. If they're going to defeat all the best shit. I mean, they're a war team, so I hope so. I guess they'd have to be better than Absolute A-Force. Attack the most injured enemy for 100% piercing, but in war this says 250 instead. This is pretty crazy. That's a pretty big. At the end of any Liberty ally turn, a 250% piercing damage is quite significant, especially like when she eventually becomes farmable. And then apply slow and heal block to that enemy. So it's almost like a reverse gambit, but it also has a slow on it, which is really good. Enemies with taunt take an additional 10% damage. Now that's across the entire team. There's like multiple passives that have this, so this really stacks up with the entire team. This is also available outside of war, at least hers is, which is quite nice. In war, enemies with slow cannot gain speed up. That is pretty significant too. An unsuccessful hit by this character, apply taunt to each target. So again, they're really utilizing this taunt mechanic to take advantage of that, make them take more damage, and penalize them for taunting. And you're just doing that on everyone. One thing that I could see is that a counter to Liberty in the future is just you can't taunt, right? That's all you really would have to do to kind of dismantle this team, I think, because there's so much revolving around taunt that you just need to someone that negates the taunt mechanic. If this character has 3 or more Liberty allies, enemy characters with slow also cannot build speed bar for themselves. So they can't get speed bar and they can't get speed up. So no speed positive stuff at all for the enemy team, which is pretty big. Just on Sharon Peggy Carter alone. That being said, a lot of those good things are relegated to war. Now, as far as her gear goes, she is on her unique. She is shield tech, so if you're thinking about getting her, if you're thinking about G19ing her, make sure you do have the shield tech available. And just like all the other new characters, they seem to be about 3 items only. Sometimes the rework characters require more, but at least the new ones are usually just 3 pieces and not 4 or 5. So that's nice there too. I think as far as what ISO that I might put on her if I did get her, honestly, I think that I would maybe put Striker on her. I know that a lot of people might think about doing Raider because there's a lot of AoE attacks and stuff like that. But I really like that Striker action, especially the slow and the copy and clear of 3 random positive effects. This could be quite useful to make sure that there is no positive effects on these characters that you're attacking, especially with the Striker follow-up that you're able to get rid of that. So I quite like that, though, I have to say. As far as the priority for using power cores on her, though, I do need to talk about this a little bit because, we've had in the last 4 months, we've had a period of time where we've had tons of these the showcase events, but also these event stores, right? We had the candy store, we had the turkey store, we had the snow globe store, and all that. Why am I talking about that at all? And that's because like it gave extra value for unlocking these characters early. I don't think we're getting this anymore. It doesn't seem like that's there. You know, the snow globe stores are gone. I think those event stores are gone for now because they've been really giving away, you know, a lot of free stuff to the players over the last 4 months. But that also gave additional value for unlocking these characters early because if you're in chapter 2 on the showcase, you know, you could start to farm those the event currency, right? The candies, the turkeys, the snow globes. You could farm that out of here, and that would give you some additional reasons why you might want to unlock, in this case, Peggy Carter early for the Liberty Showcase, and that's not there. So that part, you know, there's a bit of a hit on her as to why you would want to unlock her early. Also, traditionally, like you're not going to see any value until the full team comes out, anyways. You know, unless the character is an extreme plug and play like Kahori or something, like you're not. I don't think that Peggy Carter is going to do that for you, but that's just my thoughts as well. Also, we're kind of on the back of a heavy. There was a heavy PVE period with Jean Grey and Hercules that I did recommend, obviously unlocking ASAP so that you could get into Spotlight 2 and things. So I don't know if Peggy Carter really deserves all of the extra attention, but that's just me. Also, my thoughts are that we don't. They didn't say anything about this team being a legendary team requirement. I think the next legendary team would probably be in May, June, and so normally they would tell us whether or not a team is required for the next legendary. They did not do that for Liberty as so far with Peggy Carter, and so that also gives me a lot of a less reason to want to use her plug and play value is not necessarily that good. Her domain, or in this case, her location being global, hero global, isn't anything crazy because there's tons of characters in this category. So her on herself is not really going to, you know, add any particular value to your roster, in my opinion, by spending power cores to unlock her early. Also, the other thing is that she is the first character on the team. And traditionally, those first characters do get their unlock event within 3 weeks. So that's going to be Kahori, that's going to be Ancient One, everyone at the start of the team, even Jean Grey had one within 3 weeks. That there is going to be one for Peggy Carter as well. And given that I don't see any particular rush to use this team or unlock Peggy, I would probably just hold off and, you know, save your course for something more important. Actually, you know, for those of you still reeling from Jean Grey and Hercules, now is probably the best time to save your power cores for something in the future. Like I mentioned on my Friday video for upcoming G20 or Gear 20 mini leaderboards, which probably will be coming within the next month. So probably a better thing to save up for than unlocking some of these Liberty characters, especially Peggy Carter early. If you're going to unlock anyone, it's probably going to be the last character because then you'll have the full team assembled, and that allows you to do a lot more things. That's just some of my thoughts. Let me know what yours are, though, and what your plans are for Peggy Carter, whether or not you might unlock her early or not. But, you know, at the end of the video here, I do have to say that for me, I am not going to be spending power cores on Peggy Carter, and so my answer to should you core is going to be no. But that's just me. If you do put a lot of value into Alliance War, however, then be my guest and you know, have fun. But Alliance War for me is still probably the last. I don't think there's a lot personally, I don't think there's a lot of value in Alliance War or Cosmic Crucible these days. I feel like they really need to add more things, add more carrots to get us to care about these game modes, and I just don't personally believe it's there right now. And it's not really, especially for Alliance War, you know, unless your entire alliance is on the same page, one character on one person is not going to make the biggest difference in the world. So that's just my thoughts. That's the end of this video, and of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.